Right now it's kind of hard to choose. Who is the Orioles' ace of the pitching staff? Well, maybe, just maybe, after 7 shutout innings in the Bronx, it's Kyle Gibson. I'll recap another Orioles series win, this time over the Yankees, coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Friday, May 26th, 2023, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb, and coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap an Orioles victory and a series victory over the New York Yankees as they beat the Yankees 3-1 on Thursday night and took 2 out of 3 in the Bronx to win 5 out of 6 on what was a pivotal AL East road trip. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from that game, including Kyle Gibson's dominance and a big day for Anthony Santander. Then we'll look a bit deeper into Kyle Gibson's season so far. Wanted to compare him to Jordan Lyles at this point last year to see if he's really been an upgrade so far as the veteran right-hander in the rotation. And then finally, I'll get you ready for another huge series at the Yard this weekend, Orioles and Rangers, a preview coming up at the end of the episode. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb. And when you enter promo code LockedOnMLB, not only will you get those awesome Bird Dog shorts or pants or whatever you'd like, they'll also throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. So let's jump into it now. Orioles and Yankees on Thursday night. The O's win it 3-1 over the Yanks and win the series, taking 2 out of 3. And just what a job by the Orioles to get up off the mat after what happened to them on Monday. Yeah, one way to look at it is the Orioles were one Felix Bautista bad pitch to Aaron Judge away from sweeping this series and sweeping the 6-game road trip in Toronto and New York. That's one way to look at it. But the other way to look at it is that was a crushing, defeating, heartbreaking loss that the Orioles suffered in extra innings on Monday. To come back, have the 8-run 7th on Tuesday night and win that game, and then just shut down the Yankees offense to win the series on Thursday. I am just more and more impressed by this team as the days go on. 50 games into the season, the Orioles now sit 33-17 through 50 games. Best start since 97 through 50 games for the Orioles. This has been awesome. O's win it 3-1 over the Yankees, and I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from the game. First thing you need to know, of course, Kyle Gibson was dominant in this game. And it wasn't dominant strikeout-wise, but it was just mixing the pitches masterfully in this one. The Orioles' 35-year-old righty goes 7 scoreless innings against the Yankees in this game, allows just 2 hits. Now, he did walk 4 batters and only struck out 3, but he was able to get around those walks with a couple of huge double plays, including a double play that he induced in the final batter that he faced in the game, covering first nicely, making a good stretch to end the 7th inning. He wasn't dominant strikeout-wise like he's been a couple of times this year. He only had 8 whiffs on 40 swings, but it was just the mixing of the pitches. It was 29 sinkers. They were, in the strike zone all day, getting foul balls, getting soft grounders. It was 22 changeups. It was a lot of called strikes there. It was a lot of ground balls as well. It was 15 four-seamers, kind of as a get-me-over pitch at times. It was 14 cutters. That was really the get-me-over pitch. 6 called strikes on the cutter, most of any pitch. It was 12 sweepers where he didn't throw it much, but when he did, dominance from the sweeper. 4 whiffs on 5 swings. They did not put the sweeper in play in this one. And then 4 curveballs just to mix it up. And hey, he got a whiff and a called strike on the curveball. So it was still doing work for him despite just throwing it 4 times of his 96 pitches on the night. None of the stuff is super dominant. Now, I will say, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, like the changeup and the sweeper have been really good this season. But it's not like he's got that dominant strikeout pitch every time he goes out there. Gibson just finds a different way to get it done. To strike out 3 and walk 4 over 7 innings at Yankee Stadium Rarely do pitchers get out of there with 7 scoreless, but he gave up a single to Gleyber Torres on the first pitch of the game and didn't allow another hit until the 7th inning. That's how good Kyle Gibson was, and he was the difference in this one for the O's. Swinging it over to the offensive side, the second thing you need to know from this one, big night for Anthony Santander, who reaches all 4 times in this game playing right field and hitting out of the 3-hole. He goes 3 for 3 with 3 singles, an RBI, a walk, and a run scored. All 3 of his singles were hard hit balls. The big one was an RBI single with 2 outs in the 5th inning that scored Adam Frazier and finally opened the scoring, giving the Orioles a 1-0 lead at that point off of Yankee starter Clark Schmidt, who was kind of effectively wild in this game against the Orioles. But Santander just barreling the ball up. 104 off the bat on the ground ball single in the first, 107 off the bat in the ground ball single in the third, and then 104 off the bat again on that ground ball single in the 5th. Didn't really lift the ball that well, but it didn't matter. And then he drew a walk in the 8th inning as well. And that was a big walk because he would come around to score on that walk as well. And the reason he came around to score is that Austin Hayes had another big hit for the Orioles. That's the third thing you need to know from this one. Hayes really with the swing that put this game away. A 2-run double in the top of the 8th inning off of Clay Holmes, one of the Yankees' best relievers who had come into the game. Hayes barely, just barely missing a 3-run homer. Ball hit off just kind of the corner where the front of the wall meets the top of the wall in right field. It was just barely a double instead of a homer, but he hit it 103 off the bat, ripped it off the wall, and it ended up bringing in 2 runs to make it a 3-0 game. Just another big swing for Austin Hayes. Holmes hadn't given up a home run all season. That was almost his first, and it was the only hit for Hayes right there, but it was a big one. Now hitting 307 with an 834 OPS on the season. And it scored Anthony Santander, who had the big day, and it scored Gunnar Henderson, who was just really good again. 1 for 2, had an infield single, drew 2 really, really good looking walks in this game. So shout out to the 2 of them. Fourth thing you need to know from this one is that Cedric Mullins did not play in this game. You may have noticed that Adam Frazier was hitting in the leadoff spot for the first time this season. He's had a big week so far, ended up with a 1 for 5 with a double, a run scored, and a couple of hard hit balls. And Ryan McKenna got the start in center field. Bat didn't look good. He hit 8th. He went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, but made a nice running catch to end the game in the 9th inning. But Brandon Hyde said before the game that Mullins was out for personal reasons. So we thought initially when the lineup came out, it was just an off day for Cedric Mullins. It was interesting that it was against a right-handed starter and Clark Schmidt. Generally, when he gets his few off days, it comes against a lefty. Hyde said it could just be one day, although I'm guessing it could be more. And whatever's going on with Cedric Mullins, obviously thinking about him and wish him the best here. Hopefully he's on the field sooner rather than later, but obviously want him to deal with and get taken care of whatever is going on in his personal life at this point. But O's were able to win this one without their center fielder and their leader. And the fifth and final thing you need to know from this Orioles 3-1 win over the Yankees is that the bullpen came in after Kyle Gibson and got it done. Now, Mike Baumann was amazing. He came in the 8th inning, and I would still say his best outing of the year was that extra inning outing against the Braves when, the Orioles didn't score in the top half, and he got a couple of strikeouts against 2 of the best hitters in baseball to send it to the 12th inning. But Thursday night may have been Baumann's second best outing of the year. He was just pounding the fastball. He threw 19 pitches. It was 15 fastballs and 4 curveballs. That's all he threw. And the velo was way up for Baumann. He sat around 96 this year. That's been his average. His slowest fastball was 97, and he was up at 99 multiple times. Averaged 98.4 on the fastball when he's averaged 96.3 all year. It was ridiculous. He got 5 whiffs total on 11 swings, including 4 on the fastball. The stuff was just nasty as he got the 1-2-3 inning with a couple of strikeouts. Really impressed from what we saw from Baumann on Thursday night. And I mentioned earlier in the week that if the Orioles do bring Dylan Tate back this week, they kind of have to make a decision on him by today. I figured that the Orioles would actually send down Mike Baumann because with the options he has and the options that they really don't have in the rest of the bullpen, I figured he would be the guy. But after he looked that good, and he had a scoreless inning Wednesday, had that one on Thursday, and Tate's been bad, the Orioles have to make their decision on Dylan Tate basically by today because he's hit his maximum 30 rehab appearances. Tate does have minor league options. I think at this point, with the way Tate's looked in rehab with a 14 ERA and 10 appearances, Mike Baumann just gives you a better chance to win right now. So I would just send Tate to AAA, let him continue to work it out, and let Mike Baumann continue to cook in the Orioles bullpen. Now, Yennier Cano did have his worst outing of the season. Came in after 30 pitches on Tuesday. Felix Bautista was not available after pitching Tuesday and Wednesday night in the ninth inning. Cano did throw 30 pitches Tuesday, so I thought he might not be available. But after the off day Wednesday, with it being a save situation, Cano came in and he walked Aaron Judge on a 3-2 changeup, issuing somehow his first walk of the year. 26 innings in, he issues his first walk. But he did respond, got a ground out and a strikeout. Did give up an RBI double to Willie Calhoun, just the second run he's allowed this year, but ended the game with a fly out. Just this, again, 0.68 ERA now, but Cano gets his fourth save, and the Orioles win it 3-1 over the Yankees. But as I already mentioned, Kyle Gibson was really the star in this one. 7 scoreless innings in the Bronx in that Mickey Mouse ballpark. But now, earlier in the week, I compared Adam Frazier to Rougned Odor and how he was kind of the Orioles' upgrade there over Odor. And Frazier has so far been much better than Rugi was. So now I wanted to look at Kyle Gibson versus Jordan Lyles, because this was another good start from Gibson. But how has he done so far versus how Lyles did last year through his first 11 starts? Because Gibson was the pretty direct replacement for Lyles. So I'll break down the two of them and who has really been better for the Orioles so far. That is coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Birddogs. Birddogs are just the most comfortable pair of shorts out there. I've got a couple of pairs of the Birddogs now. I wear them all the time, and you can really wear them anywhere because they look good. So you can wear them to a little more upscale event where you're wearing shorts, but they also feel good. It feels like you're wearing athletic shorts, but they look so much nicer. So you can wear them so many different places. The stretchy fabric looks good. It feels good. It's breathable. They got the lining inside the shorts, which make them so comfortable to wear. These are just the best shorts I have ever owned, and go out and get yourself a pair of Birddogs. Like, go to birddogs.com, shop the selection, whether you want the pants or the shorts, they are all worth it. And if you do go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB and you enter promo code LockedOnMLB, they'll even throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. So again, go to birddogs.com, type in the promo code LockedOnMLB, get your tumbler, and get your hands on the most comfortable and good looking shorts out there over at Birddogs. So the Orioles win it 3-1 over the Yankees, taking 2 out of 3 from New York and getting the series win over the Yanks. Now 33-17, still 3 games back of the Rays, who beat the Blue Jays on Thursday, but the O's still with the second best record in baseball. And the big story on Thursday night was Kyle Gibson. 7 scoreless innings for him, 2 hits, 4 walks, and 3 Ks against the Yankees. Just not a lot of strikeouts, not a lot of swing and missing, but just mowing down that Yankee order. And Gibson is now through 11 starts in his Oriole tenure. He's thrown 66 innings. He has a 3.82 ERA. Not a lot of strikeouts, just 6 per 9. 3 walks per 9 is all right, and he's allowed 6 home runs so far on the year. But a 3.82 ERA, I mean, you will take that anytime, especially from a 35-year-old veteran who you brought in on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Basically not to be your ace, but to be kind of the stabilizing, innings-eating presence. Well, he's had to be the ace at times for the O's this year when the starting pitching has struggled, but he's been a good investment so far. But really the question is, has he been a better investment than Jordan Lyles would have been? Because as we know, Lyles was brought in last year to be that veteran innings eater, and he did a great job. But the Orioles ended up declining his $9 million player or team option, I should say, for 2023, and instead declined it, went out and signed Gibson, and then Lyles signed a 2-year deal with the Kansas City Royals. So the question is, first, who has been better? Well, if you look at just this year's stats, it's no question. It's been Gibson, because Jordan Lyles this year has been, you could argue, I mean, you could make a serious argument that Jordan Lyles with the Royals has been the worst starter in all of Major League Baseball, at least worst qualified starter so far this season. Lyles has made 10 starts against or for the Royals this year, including one terrible one against the Orioles a couple weeks ago. But he's made 10 starts, and in 56 and 2/3 innings, he has a 7.15 ERA on the season. Now, a 5.36 FIP means he's probably been getting a little unlucky, but he's still been bad. He is allowing 2.2 home runs per nine. That is insane. The 14 homers he's allowed in 10 starts is the most of any pitcher in Major League Baseball. So Lyles, yeah, it has not been good. And Gibson's been much better this year. Now, Lyles last season, he was much better with the Orioles, made 32 starts, threw 179 innings, had a 4.42 ERA, only 1.3 homers per nine. He really gave the O's length when they needed it. He was the dad to the starting pitching staff, and he was a nice addition for the O's. And some people did worry when they chose Gibson over Lyles because Gibson in 2022 was worse than Jordan Lyles. People were worried. But the Orioles saw that moving forward, they thought Gibson would be better than Jordan Lyles for basically the same price. And so they went with Gibson. And if you look at the 2023 numbers, it seems to be the obvious choice because Lyles has been unplayable. If he was on this Orioles team right now, he'd be either in the bullpen or DFA'd because they cannot send a guy out there who's given up homer after homer, not striking anybody out, and has a 7.15 ERA. Now, if you look at his first 11 starts last season with the Orioles and compare them to Gibson's 11 starts this year, it is a little bit closer. Lyles through 11 starts last year had 62 innings pitched. Gibson was 66. Had a 4.50 ERA, Gibson at 3.82. And he had about 6 Ks per nine and about 2 walks per nine, very similar to what Kyle Gibson has been doing this year. Now, those numbers are a lot closer, but I'm still going to say I'm going to give the edge to Gibson there. The ERA is lower. He's pitched 4 more innings than Lyles had. And when you factor in just how bad Lyles has gotten now, I will take Kyle Gibson in the matchup right there. And it looks like the Orioles have made the good decision. I mean, Gibson is still been a veteran leader. He still seems to bring good dugout and clubhouse vibes, just like Jordan Lyles did. And I just got to give the edge to Kyle Gibson. And also really the other thing that kind of puts him over the top is I mentioned how Gibson doesn't really have an elite pitch, but he has a couple of pitches in his changeup and his sweeper. Both of those pitches opponents are hitting under 200 against. Lyles didn't really have a pitch like that for most of last season. So Gibson's had some better stuff as well. You know, the Orioles have helped him with that sweeper. It's been really, really good as he kind of implemented it in September with the Phillies last year. And again, just like Adam Frazier, it's not like Frazier's going to be an all-star, but he's been a clear upgrade over Odor. And I will say that Gibson has been a clear upgrade over Lyles. So do I still think the Orioles should have done more in free agency? Absolutely. They should have spent more money and brought in some better players. But they're playing well right now. And for the upgrades they did choose to spend for, I would say so far they're 2 for 2 with Frazier over Odor and Gibson over Lyles. But they're going to put those upgrades to the test. Well, maybe not Gibson because he won't be pitching this weekend, but certainly Adam Frazier will have a role this weekend as the Orioles, a second-place team, welcome in a first-place team who they've already taken 2 out of 3 from on the road and who they do have a better record than. But it's going to be a great series in Baltimore this weekend. Orioles and Rangers starting tonight at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. And coming up next, I'm going to preview that 3-game series and get you ready for the weekend. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by RocketMoney. Now, RocketMoney is just such a great thing to have because think about it right now. How much money do you spend on subscriptions? Whether it's streaming, whether it's websites you subscribe to, whether it's different Patreons for different people you read their work, or whether it's things you just forgot about. I mean, had a family member who completely forgot about Club Penguin for like 5 years and was paying for it. That'll happen as well. Well, most people, most Americans, they pay about $200 a month on subscriptions. If you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, you need RocketMoney. RocketMoney is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. And RocketMoney, they will quickly and easily find the subscriptions for you. And if you say, I don't want that one anymore, I was still paying for that, just hit the cancel button. RocketMoney will cancel it for you. You don't have to do anything. They just get it off the books for you. It is that easy. Over 3 million people have used RocketMoney, saving the average person, wait for it, $720 a year. You can do a lot better things with $720 when you save that with Rocket Money. So stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. One more time, it's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. So after the Orioles took all 3 in Toronto and then 2 of 3 in New York, going 5 out of 6 on the big AL East road trip, the Orioles return home this weekend to take on the Texas Rangers, starting at 7:05 p.m. Eastern time tonight. It's a 3-game series, and you can catch every pitch of the Orioles' hometown broadcast all weekend with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Orioles. So let's get you ready for that series. 3 games between the O's and the Rangers. The Texas Rangers coming in at 31-18 on the season. 3rd best record in the American League behind only the Rays and the Orioles. And Texas has been really, really good this season. Now, the O's did go to Texas in the 2nd series of the year, and they did take 2 of 3 from the Rangers on the road. Only game they lost was when Jacob deGrom pitched. Can't blame him at all, but deGrom is, unfortunately, and not surprisingly, on the injured list once again. So here's how that series is going to look. Now, the Rangers, you may remember what they looked like back then. They do look different now. They've had some injuries. They got some guys back. And also, that was their 4th, 5th, and 6th game of the year. We have a much better picture of the Rangers now 49 games in. I'll tell you, they're first in the AL West, despite Seattle, Houston, and Anaheim all looking like good teams. Rangers still in first place at 31-18. They've gotten good starting pitching. We'll talk about some of those guys this weekend, although it is lucky for the O's. They are avoiding Jacob deGrom, of course, and they are avoiding Nathan Eovaldi, who's been amazing as a free agent signing for the Rangers. They've got great bats, right? You got the Marcus Semyons and the Corey Seagers of the world. Adolis Garcia is hitting much, much better this season. Josh Young has been great as a rookie at 3rd base. Nathaniel Lowe hasn't been as good, but he's still been productive. Jonah Heim is probably going to be the other all-star catcher in the American League, along with Adley Rutschman. He's been so good at the dish once again. That offense has been really, really good for Texas. But the issue has been, I mentioned the Orioles. The Orioles have probably the 2nd best bullpen in baseball right now. The Rangers, numbers-wise, pretty much have the 2nd worst bullpen in baseball right now. That's how bad the Rangers bullpen has been. Will Smith, their closer, has been solid, but everybody before him has kind of been a disaster at times this year. So you take the worst bullpen, well, not the worst bullpen, a bottom 3 bullpen in baseball, combine it with a team in the Orioles that leads all of Major League Baseball with 19 comeback wins, and we could see some games where the Orioles maybe go down early because the Rangers have good starting pitching and good hitting, but have a chance to come back late. So keep that in mind this weekend. But it kicks off tonight, a 7:05 p.m. Eastern time Friday start. It is the City Connect uniform debut tonight at the ballpark, and I will be at the ballpark as well, sitting up top behind home plate in section 336. So if you're in the area or if you're just at the ballpark, send me a DM on Twitter. Come over, come say hi. We'll talk Orioles. Would love to meet and chat with anybody at the game as we watch the O's and the Rangers. But John Gray will get the baseball for the Rangers, the veteran right-hander. He's had a great year, 3.02 ERA. Strikeout numbers are way down, but he's still getting outs. Gave up 1 run over 5 innings and struck out 6 his last time out against his old team, the Colorado Rockies. And Gray did pitch against the Orioles in that last series, and he pitched well. 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 7 Ks, 2 walks, and 2 homers back on April 3rd, game 1 of that series. Remember, that was the game the Orioles won 2-0 after Kyle Bradish was hit with the line drive, and Tyler Wells pitched 5 scoreless and hitless in relief. Gray did give up the 2 runs. Gunnar Henderson and Jorge Mateo each got him for their first homers of the season, and the Orioles won that game 2-0. Grayson Rodriguez will be on the bump for the Orioles in the Friday night game. 6.21 ERA. He's been such a roller coaster so far this year. Coming off a good start, though, over the weekend, which is a really, really good thing for Grayson. Hopefully, he can build off of that nice start in Toronto for Grayson Rodriguez on Sunday. But he has pitched against Texas once already this year, made his major league debut against the Rangers back on April 5th. Orioles lost the game, but Grayson was pretty good. 5 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits, 5 Ks, and a walk. I'll take it if he replicates that here on Friday night. Then we got game 2 is somewhat of a day game, kind of a tweener, 4:05 p.m. Eastern time start on Saturday. Big day, Ryan Mountcastle bobblehead night at the ballpark and the Andy Grammer concert is at the ballpark, part of the Birdland Music Series after the game as well. The Rangers will send Andrew Haney to the mound for that one. The veteran lefty has a 4.13 ERA, been a good strikeout pitcher once again this season, coming off a good start against Colorado, 6 scoreless innings in his last start, but he was, demolished by the Orioles when he faced them back on April 4th. O's got him for 7 runs on 7 hits over just 2 1/3 innings with 2 Ks, 2 walks, and 2 homers. Austin Hayes and Cedric Mullins each took Haney deep in that game. We'll see if he can bounce back against the Orioles in this one. It'll be Dean Kramer for the O's, who is sporting a 4.61 ERA on the year, but Kramer has been amazing in May. 4 straight great starts in the month of May. He's got a 1.96 ERA this month, looking to finish things off strong in May with another good start on Saturday. And then we will take you to Sunday, 1:35 p.m. Eastern time start for the final game of the series. The right-hander Dane Dunning is going for the Rangers in this one. He pitched briefly in relief against the Orioles in that last series, but since the DeGrom injury, Dunning, who was a starter for the Rangers last year and just didn't make the rotation this year because the Rangers brought in a lot of pitchers, well, Dunning is back into the rotation because of the injury to DeGrom. And he's honestly been amazing since rejoining the rotation. He has a 1.67 ERA on the season. He's now made 4 consecutive starts, and they've all been really, really good for the Rangers since rejoining the rotation. Again, not a strikeout pitcher, but gets a lot of ground balls with that sinker. So we'll see how the O's do against him. And he will go up against Kyle Bradish, coming off a couple of pretty good starts. Bradish with a 4.34 ERA on the year. Of course, he's already started once against the Rangers. It was his season debut that I mentioned back on April 3rd. But after an inning and 2/3 scoreless, he got hit in the foot by that line drive, ended up leaving the game, going on the injured list for a couple weeks. But the Orioles bullpen stepped up and they won that game 2-0. Now, hopefully, Bradish will pitch much deeper into this game on Sunday. And then I will be back with you on Monday, recapping all 3 games from this Orioles-Rangers series. A great one. The second place O's, 33 wins. The first place Rangers, 31 wins. Should be a great series at the Yard. I'll be there Friday. Going to be a whole lot of fun. City Connect uniforms being debuted. I am pumped up for this weekend of Orioles baseball. And then I'll be back with you on Monday to recap it all. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.